In the United States today, there is a severe feral cat overpopulation crisis. Estimates on the number of the cats run into the tens of millions, and they can be found in virtually every community, whether it's rural, suburban, or urban. Feral cats are too wild to be handled or easily adopted. They originate from lost or abandoned cats whose former owners did not get them neutered, and also from pet cats who are unsterilized and allowed to roam. They tend to congregate around food sources and live in groups that are referred to as colonies. Trap, neuter, return involves trapping all the cats who live together in a colony, getting them spayed and neutered, vaccinated for rabies, and then marking them for identification by tipping their left ear. The cats who are too wild to be adopted are then returned to the original territory, where a caretaker provides food and shelter over the long term and also monitors the colony for any newcomers or any problems that might develop.
Shelters that are dealing with animal control are going to be the most strongly influenced, because animal control will receive complaints from the neighbors and they will go out and trap cats and bring them into the shelter. Those feral cats that come in can't be adopted, and most of them are either held for a short time or euthanized immediately. So there's a large cost involved in going out, handling the complaint, trapping the cat, bringing it in, euthanizing it, and then disposing the body. There's also costs for the shelter because of the kittens that are out on the street. Those kittens either get adopted into homes and compete for homes, or those kittens can come to the shelter and become part of the number of animals that the shelter is trying to place.
The animal welfare community needs to move beyond the debate of whether we should sterilize the feral cat population and instead focus on ways to best get this done. Until we stabilize the reproduction of cats on the streets and relieve some of the pressure off the shelter system, we're not going to be able to get to the deeper problem. And that's, where are these cats coming from in the first place? How do we deter abandonment? How do we educate cat owners to be more responsible? And how do we encourage the spay-neuter of companion animals? We need to get the cats out there fixed and focus our resources on the true causes of feral cat overpopulation.
You are talking about dirty cages, wire floors, rusty. You're talking about food that is contaminated, water filled with algae sometimes, dogs that are emaciated. It's a horrible, horrible existence for man's best friend.
This is the life of a puppy mill dog. Melanie Kahn with the Humane Society of the United States says many puppy mills have hundreds, some even thousands of dogs.
They never get to have human interaction like most of the dogs that we own ourselves. It's a horribly sad experience for these dogs.
Which leads to dogs with severe physical and emotional problems.
Dogs scared of anything, including grass, because they've never seen it before. We see horrible physical conditions, problems with the paw pads from being on those wire floors for their whole lives, eye problems, ear problems, it just goes on and on.
With an estimated 10,000 puppy mills in the United States, the industry rakes in hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
It's a profit-driven industry, so there's very little incentive for these puppy mill operators to stop producing dogs at this alarming rate.
Even more alarming, the number of people who own puppy mill dogs but don't even realize it.
Many consumers unknowingly purchase puppy mill dogs at pet stores and online without knowing where the dogs came from. When you do make the decision to purchase a dog in a pet store, what you're doing is supplying the puppy mill industry. You are condemning that puppy's mother and father breeding in a puppy mill to those horrible conditions for their entire lives.
But you can help put a stop to puppy mills.
Don't buy a dog at a pet store. Don't buy a dog online. If you do want to get a dog, look at a shelter first or a rescue. And if you don't find the dog of your dreams there, make sure you're going to a good, responsible breeder. No civilized society should ever allow dogs to be raised in these kinds of conditions. This absolutely has to stop.
This is a very typical hoarding situation we've got here. We've got approximately 80 dogs. More than 50% of the animals have mange, certainly flea infestation. Many of the dogs are emaciated. Plenty of worms, as you can see. A lot of fly strike that has become infected. Overgrown nails, some matting, a lot of matted dogs out here, and have now been abandoned.
We had decided that a mass grave was going to be dug on site. The dogs were going to be euthanized by their means, which was probably, their description was a 22 bullet or more to get rid of them. And Animal Rescue Corps came in, and here we are. More people than I could possibly ever dream of. I'm actually getting sleep. That's all I can say. In a month, I could probably count it, the hours of sleep that I have had. And I have worked a long time, a month or longer. Feeding, watering. I've seen some die, and I love them all. And I wish I could keep up with every one of them to see where they're gonna go. But I know that I trust Animal Rescue Corps to do everything that they can to get them in good places. The nightmare's over, and I wish I could get every one of these dogs to understand every whisper that I tell them whenever they're getting on a truck that it's going to be okay. And I think they're finally at the point that they're relaxing, because I see more tails wag now than before, because they used to hide from me. They used to run into the woods, and now they're just laid back, and now they're getting bathed. They're getting fleas taken off of them, and I'm just, okay, I can breathe, I can relax, and thank you. All I can just say is thank you.
We assessed all the animals. We started giving them flea baths. We put Frontline on them. We gave them all Capstar, which instantly kills the fleas. We did a heartworm test, a Bordetella vaccine, and we did all this in the preparation for transport.
We're currently loading up 3 transports worth of dogs. Our driver's going to be leaving tonight at around 11 o'clock. He'll arrive at the first shelter partner tomorrow morning about 7, off to the second, probably in the evening, and off to the third by the middle of the night, maybe the following morning. Drive him straight back here and go at it again. The work is amazing out here. The people have been absolutely amazing. And of course, these dogs are priceless. A few injuries, a great deal of heat exhaustion. It's rough stuff out here, but I mean, we've got nothing to complain about. This has been the life for these dogs, their entire existence out here. So we've made them the promise that we're going to get them the heck out of here, and that's exactly what we're doing.
These 2 men were responsible for an illegal dogfight Saturday in Robeson County. Spectators came from as far away as Ohio and Maryland.
5 adults and 1 juvenile are in custody.
There were gambling monies that were involved. There were narcotics involved.
Also the presence of a toddler who was allowed to watch.
Underground dogfights, endangering animals.
Even a treadmill for dogs, all seized from this Dayton home.
The media is the main way people learn about things being frightening.
The stories that came in about
pit bulls just took us into a different world.
Well, did a local councilman sick the dogs on pit bull activists?
Again, I'm Brian Powers, and I propose this legislation, and I know for many of you that makes me the enemy.
This guy wanted to know what I did for a living. He wanted to know, if there's kids in my house.
A city is very often in a mode of taking laws that the state passes and then having to adjust their own laws to fit it, and then we have to pay to enforce them.
And everybody's looking at this black guy with locked hair with a black dog standing on Clifton Boulevard. He must have did something. The stereotype things that can come out.
If it has saved one life, then the legislation has done its job.
It was my belief that we could maximize our efforts by banging the drum loudly, and we did.
He was very good at using the media to drive this as well. That drives perception, that drives fear.
And they forced several families to move out of Ohio and into Michigan, and they killed a couple of nice dogs. That was a success story.
We can't allow one group of dogs to become a repository for some vague fear that we have about dogs.
Today, I ask for your support in taking another large step forward. Since 1987, Ohio has statutorily classified a certain breed of dog to be vicious.
Every time it's been reintroduced and every time it's been discussed, the momentum gets a little bit bigger and the push gets a little bit bigger.
Question is, shall the bill as amended pass? The House will prepare and proceed to vote.